Well, guys, we're back for more. This is going to be our first night match, and this time we are in red. So I don't know much about Hallam. I know that some of you from the Sheffield area probably know a little bit more about them, so you can inform me all about them in the comments. But we are in red here for this road match against, who are we up against? Aveley. And apologies for almost certainly saying things incorrectly. We probably will not win this match, and as you can see, we have no fans here to support us, which is always a good sign. This is our second team, other than the goalkeeper, so we'll see how this works. We honestly don't have very much by way of reserve, so if somebody gets injured, we're in trouble. And that wasn't very good by Kavanaugh, and we'll see what happens. I put this back on comprehensive highlights. We'll see if we end up glitching out again, now that I kind of know what to do if that happens once again. So we'll see what happens. It's funny with FM23, it's an old game. Now it is, at least, but I still learn new things all the time. Here's Hannah, who's behind the defense, and boy, he comes very close to rounding the keeper. That was really good. So that was a little bit unexpected here. This is a great pass by Wilson moving forward, and Hannah here is behind the defense and does a good job of rounding north the keeper, and unfortunately it just isn't quite enough quality there on the end of that, but that looks pretty good for a team that's expected to lose. We're unable to keep that ball in there. Salt goes back and grabs it. Chris Salt is one of those players I always see when I play with Hallam, and Wilson had it and then lost it, and so he goes all the way back. Kavanaugh goes back to grab it. Kavanaugh here from the back up to Salt. Salt forward for Hannah, and he gets it over to Hunter. And unfortunately, that is out for a corner, and they're going to call Hunter for being offside. I think it's probably the right call. Salt here with a free kick from range, and that ends up going over to Kavanaugh and off of him. And so that ends up being the end of it. North forward for Sinclair over to Hunter to Beat. Beat, who's out of position, over to Wiley. Beat is Newton Beat is a 16-year-old, one of, I think, two that we have here on the first team. And he plays at left wing back, and he kind of has to because we don't have anybody else to play there. Daniel Kavitz knocks it all the way forward, and it ends up turning into a bunch of nothing. And so we're playing Lumpet game again. And how was Skies offside? Can you tell me how in the world that guy was offside? This has been happening numerous times, and I just don't see it. I don't see that as being offside. Anyway, Zengo knocks us forward, and Blakely goes back to grab this one. It's off of Edwards. Blakely trying to mark Steven, does a fairly good job of it, but Skies ends up being open for the header. Fortunately, our keeper is there to do away with that. And so we'll see what happens. Still no score about 17 minutes into it. Kavanaugh is going to be called. No, Skies is being flagged for being offside again. That's another ridiculous call. I'm surprised they don't call a foul there instead because he was pretty clearly onside. Salt goes back and gets this back to Daniel Kavitz, and it goes up to Hunter, who heads this forward to nobody, unfortunately. We're still working on the cohesion. I feel like I've been saying that with a couple of saves here in a row now, and we're still trying to get it together. Once we get firing from all cylinders, some of those passes are going to look like they were a little bit better placed. Salt does a good job, but Skies takes a great shot from range. Fortunately for us, it's offline, but that was actually pretty good considering the overall level of talent here. That makes me a little bit worried. Remember, we are expected to lose going into this. And Kelly's being flagged for being offside now. And once again, I've got to say, how was that offside? It didn't look even close to it. So anyway, we take what we can get, and it's going to be North here who knocks this forward, their keeper. Blakely ends up with it, over to Edwards, back to Blakely. He's got control of it to Kavanaugh, back to Edwards, and it goes all the way back to the keeper. And he knocks it forward over to the blue shirts. Apparently, I think he's forgotten which side he's on. Salt does a really poor job there, and they're going to call Skies offside. I don't know how you can call him offside because he was about a mile away from where the ball was kicked. Danielowitz ends up grabbing that one before it does any damage. And so we're doing okay. We're still hanging in there. I'm worried that we're about to concede, and Stevens has it over to Vivada, who ends up scoring. And just as soon as I said it, we do concede. 30 minutes in, and it's 1-0 for Aveley. So a little bit of a defensive breakdown here. I mean, Gibbs is just wide open. Kavanaugh does a good job trying to mark Stevens, but then there's nobody there behind him to try to cover in for the gap that has been left. And so it is 1-0 in favor of them. Let's see what we can do to rebound. Salt over to Kavanaugh. Kavanagh forward, lumps this for either Hunter or Hana, and they're both way, way behind. And so let's see what we can do, see if we can win this ball back off of them. Kavanagh ends up winning this over into in midfield. He lumps it forward for Wilson. It's just a little bit too far out in front for him, so it didn't quite work that time. And yeah, this isn't looking very good, is it? We need to get back on defense, and it ends up with Vivada again for the shot and the score. We're going to claim that was offside, but I don't think he was. I'm pretty sure that we had a man back, and it has been awarded. Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, you take another look here. Ogunrinda had the ball, and I mean, yeah, he's pretty clearly onside. I mean, there were two men, sort of one man between him and the goal, and there was another man who was clearly out in front of him on the other side. You can see it right there. And so, I mean, it really wasn't all that close. It was just another job of a poor defensive job by us. And so we're down 2-0 now. Here's Wilson with the ball. Let's see if we can attack. And Wilson does not quite have the pace that he needs to get that ball forward, and that's kind of what we've been dealing with here in the first two matches of this season. So looks like we may end up being slightly disappointed here, although, as I said, we were coming into this away match expecting to not win. And so it wouldn't be too surprising if we did not win. We Hannah knocks that one out for a corner, and so we'll see what comes at the end of this. Now, the nice thing about starting off from so far down in the league is that they don't expect much of you, and there's a lot of money here in World Super League, which means that we're likely going to be able to be professional before long, and we should have some sort of transfer budget once we get a season or two into this. So this save will change. I don't know why they're flagging Skies for being offside there, because he's really not. Whatever. They're going to flag him here as well. Salt ends up winning this over to Danielovitz, over to Kavanagh, who knocks it forward for Hannah, who goes the wrong way. And so we give up possession again. And Danielovitz ends up knocking that one in. Vivada with his hat trick, and he was onside. This is another ridiculous VAR check. They disallowed that one. That's interesting. I thought for sure he was onside. We'll take another look at this and see. Yeah, I mean, come on. That's offside. It's ridiculous call. Danielovitz with it over to Wiley to Sinclair. Back to Wiley and see what we can do. Salt lumps this forward looking for Hunter. Hunter just has not had much speed on him. It's not good for a guy who's going to be playing up in that position. We're only down by 2, so I mean, it's not all over, but not looking so great. Sinclair wins this and then just does nothing with it, and yeah, I'm not sure what else to say here. Wiley does a good job winning this one and knocking it back into space where there are no people, but that's not helping us. You're just trying to get it out of danger. Wiley wins this again, and we're going to try one more time, and is lumped forward and ends up doing a whole bunch of nothing. Salt wins this midfield to Edwards. Edwards up to Hunter. Here you go, and it's over to Hannah. He didn't mean to pass it like that, and that forces a really poor save by their keeper. See, this is the thing. If we could get an actual shot on goal here, we have a chance of it going in, because they are not this keeper here is far from excellent. Unfortunately, we had a lot of people around that corner, but it ends up turning into nothing. Here's Wiley once again over to Edwards. Edwards forward for Hannah in space. And it's a good, well-angled shot. It ends up going out for a throw, but that was very, very good. We could use a lot more of this. Edwards with a perfect pass over to Hannah, who has it in space, and that shot from that angle is going to start going in one of these times. So right about on the verge of halftime, and Skies has this ball in front of the defense and tries to lob the keeper and ends up lobbing the entire net. Doesn't quite work. About 2 minutes left here of injury time, and Danielovitz ends up grabbing that. We're down 2-0. We're on the road. Not too much to get really upset about. Hannah just not quite with the speed necessary to win that one. We may need to start telling people, okay, let's stop lumping it forward like this, but I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. And the reason why is because, I mean, we can use all the help that we can get. I don't think that we're quite good enough to work the ball up slowly. Kavanagh over to Wiley. We're good enough to turn around and get the ball. That's a good thing. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe we should tell the guys to calm it down a little bit. Maybe we shouldn't. I just don't know. And they have won a corner here right before halftime. So let's see if we can keep this ball out. Vaivada will take it, lumps it forward, and Danielovitz ends up jumping up and grabbing it. So it doesn't look too bad for us here in the end. 2-0 here at halftime. Let's see what we can do. I think we can salvage a draw. I think that's what we're going to tell them. I'm just looking really quickly to see. Yeah, Hannah and Hunter have been pretty bad up front. Nobody is all that tired yet, though, and I think that's the thing that we're going to worry about more here than just the match rating. So we'll go ahead and keep these guys out there for the time being and sort of see what we can do. Nobody seems to share the belief with me that we might be able to get a draw out of this one. And here comes Vaivada for his hat trick, and that's off the crossbar. So Salt ends up taking care of that business. And so, I mean, that wasn't bad. It didn't go in. And Danielovitz is saved by the crossbar again. And all right, let's see if we can get onto this now. Blakely heads it or kicks it forward, but not far enough to really clear it. Pretty poor attempt at the clearance, and Wilson ends up here with this. He takes control of it over to Blakely, who promptly gives up possession and then wins it back again. Hunter ends up losing it. He's done a lot of that today. And here comes the attack from them again. Wilson ends up winning this, and it goes out for a throw. And they're going to call Ogunrinda offside. So Blakely over to Wilson, back to Blakely. Blakely has a pretty good angle for that cross, but there was nobody there. Wiley now with it. Up to Blakely again. Let's see if now he's going to play it backwards to Kavanagh, and he plays it poorly. So I was going to say, let's see if he can cross it again, but I say he's just not quite offensive-minded enough. So again, some of this is due to poor cohesion in the team. I don't think that it's necessarily a morale problem as much as it is an actual ability problem. Boy, Blakely looked pretty bad there, and we've given up a penalty. That was not well advised. So, I mean, this is pretty clear. They're going to call that a penalty. There was no question about it. You could see it. You could see it there. Bede, the youngster, just doesn't know what he's doing. And Danielovitz ends up saving it, so it's out for a corner. How about that? So we still only are down by 2. We've been under a lot of pressure here in the first 5 minutes. Vaivada looking for his hat trick, and he took it to the side, but it wasn't really a well-taken penalty. And so we might be able to get a little bit of something out of this. Losing by only 2 is not necessarily the end of the world. And we end up preventing them from scoring again. How about that? So that wasn't bad at all. Kavanagh goes back and wins this, but it ends up going back over into an attacking position for them, and then it ends up with a header that's over everyone's head, and that's the end of that. So you can't say that it's boring, even though we're not really coming close to scoring. At least we are providing a lot of thrills, as they have had a penalty that we ended up saving. So that's not bad at all. And Danielovitz ends up jumping up and grabbing this one as well. We do a good job of deflecting that ball. And we have another highlight just right away. How about that? So it's Ogunrinda who takes us forward again for them. He's going to cross it right here, and Wiley goes back and grabs it. But it's not quite good enough. Diedrich Roberts is another one of those explosion shots that goes into the 10th row. So I mean, as long as they're going to try that, we'll be okay. Hannah can't win that ball, unfortunately. And this leads to Skies being called for offside. I'm not quite certain that I understand why that call was made. Didn't look offside to me, and Hannah is a little bit too slow trying to get that ball moving forward. About 55 minutes into this, and we're still looking for a real attack. Beat with it over looking for Hannah, and it's not very well placed. It's going to be one now. We don't win that midfield. We have to go win it way back in the back. Salt with it, and he looks for Wilson, can't quite find him. And, so this is more of the same from us, unfortunately. Stevens with a really, really good cross. And fortunately for us, their shot is wide and ends up with nothing. Danielovitz over looking for somebody up there in the front. It doesn't quite work, unfortunately, and it's led to another counterattack. But we're able to win that back. Edwards looking for Wilson, and it's a little bit too far forward for him. And so we allow them to simply have possession. Salt wins this, but not quite well enough, and they have another attacking movement. Salt, though, I think, it was Salt who knocked that one off, not Skies, and so that's going to be another corner for them. And that's just sort of the match is going to be. Vaivada now with the corner, ends up with Wilson, who heads it off, and once again, not quite far enough. I know that we have the highlight mode that shows a lot of highlights, but I'm not so sure that there wouldn't be a whole bunch of highlights no matter what mode we had, because they have a lot of attacking movement here, and we haven't been doing much to keep them off of it. Ogunrinda here with the ball in a good position, and he scores. That's his first of the season. And so we probably need to do a little bit better than that. That was pretty poor. I could see, just having a glimpse at it, that we have a whole bunch of players with really, really bad ratings, and this looks like we're just about to give up on this. Now, this is our second choice team, but these guys should be, I would hope, a little bit better than this. Hannah here with the ball, and moves it up a little bit, then passes back to Salt, over to Kavanagh. And Kavanagh finds Blakely, and we're just sort of standing there in a line. There's Kavanagh again, and it goes back to the keeper, over to Salt again, back to Kavanagh. Kavanagh back to Salt, and he lumps it forward. There's nobody there, and ends up going out for a goal kick. So whatever that was supposed to be, it didn't end up happening. So we'll see what we can do here. We are not able to win this in midfield. We just look shorter. We look weaker. Kavanagh over to Edwards, down to Wilson, forward for Hannah. Here we go. And Hannah has a man. Does he see it? He doesn't. Instead, he decides to take it himself, which isn't a bad idea. And there was a shot that was on target, but ends up doing a little bit of nothing. And we're about 60 minutes into this match. I think once we're done with this highlight, we're going to check and see what we can do for changes. Here's Hannah with it again in midfield. Forward for Wilson. Wilson up to Blakely. Blakely needs to pass back to Wilson. And what was that? Oh, it was deflected is what happened. I was expecting there to be an actual shot instead of a ball that's popped up into the stratosphere. And I mean, we can take another look at this again and see. Blakely did a good job passing backwards to Wilson, and then that shot ended up being deflected, unfortunately for him. Now we'll wait here for this corner and just see what happens. And that was kind of a lofty expectation, I think, on my part. There was nothing to it. Now we're going to make our changes and see what we can do. A couple of guys who are looking a little bit tired. I mean, everybody up front is doing poorly, so we're going to take just about everybody. Not necessarily everybody, but almost all of our players up front are doing poorly. So we'll put two more guys on there. We'll probably take Blakely off for Pudil, and I think Wiley is the other one who needs to come off. We'll put Chu back on. And so that's 4 changes. That's probably going to be good enough here for most of the rest of the match. And we'll see if it makes any sort of difference. Now, normally I end up finding players, but I think at the beginning of this season, we're going to hold off for a little while. Wilson with it, and has a good shot that forces a good save, and that was almost a goal. How about that? Anything would help. We're down 3-0. Pudil over to Sinclair, who hits it back to Pudil, and they're going to call that offside. So that not sure what we were trying to do there, but it didn't work. Yeah, let's see what we can do here after this. Pudil with this again. I will say in our defense, Salt with a good header, and that ends up being grabbed by them. I will say in our defense that we haven't had a whole bunch of exhibition matches here. We haven't had a lot of friendlies. It's because this season started pretty quickly, right? We had, I think, like 3 weeks or something like that, so we haven't had a lot of time to get the cohesion up, and I think that's part of the problem. Now, I will also say in my own defense that when I came on, the cohesion was really bad, and it has improved since. So it could be a lot worse than this. But yeah, this is definitely not going to be a victory for us. It ends up being another corner for them, and we'll see if we can prevent them from going up 4-0. Vaivada here with the corner, and Kavanagh ends up heading that one away. So it could be worse. Fortunately, Beat this time is fouled instead of fouling the guy he was on, so there's not another penalty. Pudil with the throw over to Horan. Horan with it, beats his man, and ends up just sort of running into 2 guys, so that doesn't quite work either. We might want to change our passing style a little bit here and make a couple of small changes. Wilson is fouled, and there's no call. It's a pretty cynical no call by the referee. I'm not quite sure how he missed that one. Everybody stopped, and there was no call. So I don't know. I can't really explain it. Danielovitz, not exactly going to join the ranks of the famous goaltenders that we've had so far here in this channel. But he does his best to at least try to find a red shirt. and ends up with Edwards here. Now, I tell you, I think one of the problems is we're not used to playing in red. Seong with it over to Sinclair. Sinclair forward for Haran, and here we go. Haran takes a shot, just can't get the angle right. He did do brilliantly up until the finish. He needs to figure out where that goal is. I think he's a little bit confused. I'm probably having some problems with spatial reasoning. Pudel forward for Haran, and he just can't get to it, unfortunately. North gets there first. And so we've had a couple of attempts here, a couple of chances that looked pretty good. Babaloa over to Ailuru, and we end up winning that one. Here's Haran again. He's been all over the place. Back to Sinclair. Sinclair forward for Seong. Seong takes that down, and he's called for offside. So that's the end of that. Ends up not working off as well as we thought it would. Babalola was all wide open, and Aileru took the shot, but fortunately we were able to save that one, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. We just have a couple of minutes left. I know this is a long video. I wanted to see if I could get that graphical glitching to come back on, and fortunately for us, it hasn't, at least not yet. But we'll see. We do have a couple of minutes left, so we'll see what happens. Here's Salt with it again. Over to Sinclair, back to Kavanagh. Back to Salt. Salt forward for Haran, who is wide open again behind the defense and takes a shot and is nowhere near the goal. So that doesn't quite work. And we just have a couple of minutes left here right before the very, very end. Haran was in a great position here, was behind the entire defense, and then I don't know why he's taking that with his left foot instead of going with his right. I don't know which one his dominant foot is, but he needs to use the dominant foot, whatever one it is. He had plenty of time, and it just looks like he used the wrong foot. Sinclair with this over to Seong, and can't quite get it to him, but Seong does win, and then he loses it out for a throw, so it doesn't quite work. And that's the end of that one. We lose this one 3-0. We actually won the possession battle, and we had a 1.35 XG. So there are some things to be proud of at the end of that match. But, yeah, we didn't do a very good job in defense. And it's going to happen here at the beginning of the season. We'll end up losing matches to teams like Aveley. So it is, and I'll talk with you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.